Back in the 1970s and 80s, Barbara Mandrell was more than just a country music star. She was a cultural force. Her voice had the power to quiet an entire room and captivate millions. She wasn't just a performer. She was a trailblazer who redefined the role of women in country music. Barbara wasn't only talented, she was confident, outspoken, and fully in control of her public image and artistic direction. She didn't wait for permission, she set her own rules. Fans adored her, and the music industry admired her professionalism and bold spirit. For a time, it truly seemed like Barbara Mandrell could do no wrong. But eventually, something shifted. Almost without warning, and with little public explanation, her bright spotlight began to fade. The once unstoppable force of country music began to step back from the fame she once dominated. Was it the crushing demands of stardom? A personal battle hidden from the public eye? Or was it the industry itself, the one she had helped shape, that slowly turned away? The real reason behind her quiet disappearance is more surprising than anyone could have guessed. And where life has taken Barbara Mandrell today is something no one saw coming. Barbara Mandrell was born on December 25, 1948, Christmas Day, Houston, Texas. She was the first child of Mary Ellen, a dedicated music teacher, and Herbie Mandrell, a police officer with a deep passion for music. From day one, Barbara was surrounded by rhythm and melody. In their household, music wasn't just a hobby, it was a way of life. Later, the family moved to Corpus Christi, Texas, where Barbara's two younger sisters, Louise and Arlene, were born. It was during this time that Barbara's musical roots began to grow deeper. She frequently sang around the house and showed a remarkable ability to pick up musical patterns naturally. Even as a child, she didn't just enjoy music, she felt it. Her talent was more than skill. It was instinct. Barbara's first performance in front of an audience happened at her church, where she sang a gospel tune that left a lasting impression. But her talents went far beyond singing. She was a true musical prodigy. Before she even started first grade, she could already read sheet music and play the accordion, thanks, in large part, to her mother's early guidance. When she was 6 years old, the Mandrells moved again, this time to Oceanside, California. There, her father opened a music store, which gave Barbara even more opportunities to explore various instruments. She joined her elementary school band and began playing the saxophone. Around that same time, a family friend taught her how to play the steel guitar, an instrument that would later become her signature. After just a year of learning the steel guitar, Barbara was invited to perform at a music trade show in Chicago. Her performance stood out, catching the attention of country musician Joe Maffis. That single moment opened the door to what would become a remarkable career in country music. At just 11 years old, Barbara began performing with Joe Maffis in Las Vegas. She wowed audiences with her steel guitar skills and natural stage presence. Maffis recognized her talent instantly and helped her land a recurring spot on the California country music TV show Town Hall Party. Although Barbara initially felt out of place in a male-dominated field, being part of the show made her realize that other female musicians were also carving out their own space. That realization strengthened her resolve. Every summer, she returned to Las Vegas, polishing her craft and gaining confidence with each performance. By 1962, she was touring with legendary performers like Johnny Cash and Patsy Cline. Because of her young age, she shared hotel rooms with Cline during the tour. She also performed with country greats like Red Foley, Little Jimmy Dickens, and Tex Ritter, holding her own as a steel guitarist with a poise well beyond her years. At just 14, Barbara's parents formed the Mandrell family band. Barbara played steel guitar, her mother Mary played piano, and her father Herbie handled the vocals. They added 2 additional musicians to round out the group, one of whom was Ken Dudney, a drummer who would later become Barbara's husband. Together, the band toured across the United States, performing at military bases and entertaining crowds. With a fresh and modern sound that included covers of Beatles songs, Barbara's musical abilities continued to grow. She learned to play the banjo and bass guitar, adding to her already impressive list of instruments. But she didn't just excel in music. In 1965, she was crowned Miss Oceanside, California, and she stayed active in school life, participating in the marching band, choir, and student council. She graduated from high school in 1967 and soon married Ken Dudney, stepping away from music with hopes of settling into a quiet, domestic life. Her last performance with the family band took place in Vietnam, where they entertained American troops during the war. But after returning home, Barbara discovered that her new husband had been deployed overseas. Feeling isolated and uncertain, she went to visit her parents, who had by then relocated to Nashville. One night, she attended a performance at the Grand Ole Opry, and while watching from the audience, she experienced a powerful realization. She didn't belong in the seat, she belonged on the stage. That moment reignited her passion for performing. Soon after, she found an opportunity to sing and play steel guitar at a show in Nashville's Printer's Alley. Her father stepped in as her manager, and it wasn't long before her talent caught the attention of 6 different record labels. Among the people in the crowd that night was Billy Sherrill, a producer for Columbia Records. Pressed by her performance, he offered her a recording contract. By 1969, Barbara Mandrell had officially signed with Columbia and was ready to start her next chapter as a recording artist. In the early phase of her career, Barbara focused on rhythm and blues-inspired country music. Her debut single, a soulful cover of Otis Redding's "I've Been Loving You Too Long to Stop Now," landed on the Billboard country chart. Her second release, "Playing Around with Love," written by Billy Sherrill, became her first top 20 hit. Then, in 1975, she made a significant move to ABC Records, which was later absorbed by MCA. Partnering with producer Tom Collins, she began blending pop and country, creating a sound that appealed to mainstream audiences. Her first single with the label, "Standing Room Only," quickly became a top 5 hit on the Billboard country chart. More hits followed, including fan favorites like "That's What Friends Are For" and "Midnight Angel." With Collins at the helm, Barbara infused her music with R&B influences, giving it a rich, soulful texture that helped her stand out in a crowded field. One notable example was her version of Denise Lascelles' "Married But Not to Each Other," which showcased her ability to bridge genres while staying true to her country roots. Shirley Brown made a major breakthrough with her powerful song, "Woman to Woman," which quickly rose into the top 5 on the US and Canadian country charts. It wasn't just a country success, it became her first track to cross over into the mainstream, earning a spot on the Billboard Hot 100. These successful singles were featured on her 6th and 7th studio albums, both released in 1977. This period marked a turning point in her career, cementing her place in the music industry. Meanwhile, by the late 1970s, Barbara Mandrell had reached the peak of her commercial success. She was known for songs that explored themes like heartbreak, infidelity, and emotional struggle subjects that resonated deeply with fans. In 1978, she scored her first #1 hit on both Billboard and RPM's country charts with "Sleeping Single in a Double Bed." That success was soon followed by her sultry take on Luther Ingram's classic, "If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right." This song topped the country charts and also broke into the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100 and the Canadian pop charts, proving her crossover appeal. As her fame grew, Mandrell became known for her spectacular live shows. Her concerts were full-on productions, complete with costume changes, choreographed routines, and performances on multiple instruments. She raised the bar for female entertainers in country music with her professionalism and showmanship. However, not everyone admired the new direction her music took in the early 1980s. Some critics felt she had moved too far away from her traditional roots. One critic described her early 80s music as overly polished, suggesting it lacked the raw honesty that defined country music. Another reviewer called her 1983 album "Spun Gold," a strange mix of country grit and disco glam. Despite the mixed reviews, many listeners and cultural critics praised her music for addressing real-life struggles, financial issues, broken relationships, and a strong pride in country living. These themes struck a chord with working-class fans, proving that Mandrell's music still had powerful emotional depth. Barbara Mandrell was never just one thing. She was a pioneering steel guitarist, a passionate singer, a glamorous entertainer, and a woman who wasn't afraid to grow and take risks. Her journey from a child prodigy to a chart-topping star was marked by bold reinvention and unshakable resilience. She never let herself be boxed in. Instead, she pushed boundaries and made her mark on music history. That same bold spirit also defined her personal life. When it came to love, Barbara didn't follow the crowd, she followed her heart. Offstage, her life was just as full and fascinating. She married Ken Dudney in 1967, former Navy pilot and musician who had originally joined the Mandrell family. Band as a drummer, her love story wasn't perfect from the start. Barbara was only 14, and Ken was 21 when they met, and he was engaged to someone else. But after spending time around her, Ken realized he had deeper feelings. He ended his engagement. The connection between them continued to grow. By the time Barbara graduated high school, she already knew what she wanted. She wanted to become Mrs. Ken Dudney. She once confessed to counting down the days until they could finally marry. When they did, Ken gave up his career in the Navy to support her growing music career. Together, they built not just a marriage, but a life. Their first child, Matthew, was born in 1970. Their daughter, Jaime, arrived in 1976. And their youngest son, Nathan, was born in 1985. While Barbara was winning awards and lighting up stages, Ken stayed behind the scenes, supporting her in raising their children. In 1988, the Mandrells made headlines again, this time for building Fontanelle, a massive log cabin mansion in the hills of Tennessee. It featured 6 bedrooms, 13 bathrooms, 2 kitchens, 5 fireplaces, and even a helicopter pad. At the time, it was considered the largest log cabin in the world. Eventually, Barbara sold the estate, and it was turned into a tourist destination, with a hotel, restaurant, music venue, and indoor shooting range. For a while, Jaime worked there managing human resources before dedicating her time to helping people struggling with addiction. From the outside, the Mandrell family looked picture-perfect, faithful, close-knit, and thriving. But behind the success and smiles, a terrible tragedy struck. On September 11, 1984, Barbara's life changed forever when she was involved in a devastating car accident near her Nashville home. She was driving with her 2 children when a car driven by 19-year-old college student Mark White crossed the center line and crashed into her vehicle. Tragically, Mark died instantly. Barbara's children suffered only minor injuries, but she was seriously hurt. She had a broken femur, a crushed ankle, knee damage, and a severe concussion that caused temporary brain damage. The pain, especially in her knee, was constant and difficult to manage. Still, she pushed through grueling physical therapy every day, determined not to let the accident define her. The brain injury, however, left her confused and emotionally distant from her identity. For a while, she referred to herself in the third person, saying things like, "That was her," or "She did that," as if she no longer recognized the version of herself before the crash. Barbara's physical recovery took more than a year. It took nearly 3 years for her brain to fully heal. Even long after, she admitted she still felt pain in her ankle. What saved her and her children that day was a small but vital decision. Just moments before the crash, she noticed some unbuckled kids playing in another car and told her own children to fasten their seatbelts, and she did the same. That simple act ended up saving all their lives. From then on, Barbara became a strong advocate for seatbelt safety. She starred in public service announcements, campaigned for arthritis and organ donation awareness, and in 1985 was named honorary chairman of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Still, controversy followed. Nearly a year after the accident, Tennessee law required her to file a $10.3 million lawsuit against the White family, not to seek personal damages, but to access her insurance claim. Even though her legal team clarified she held no anger toward the family, the lawsuit sparked backlash. Many people misunderstood the legal process and assumed Barbara was suing a grieving family. Later, she admitted that she understood why people were upset. If she had been in their position, she might have felt the same. It was a painful but important lesson about life in the public eye. while this tragic accident is well known. There's another loss in Barbara's story that's often overlooked: her decision to leave behind one of her biggest accomplishments, the NBC variety show Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters. In the late 1970s and early 80s, Barbara wasn't just dominating country music, she was a true entertainment powerhouse. Her hits crossed over into pop charts, and her live shows were legendary, filled with high energy, sparkle, and undeniable charisma. Her stage presence caught the eye of NBC producer Marty Krofft, who believed she was the perfect fit for a primetime television show. At first, Barbara refused. "I would never do a network television show," she later said. She was worried it would hurt her music career, and her father agreed, but Krofft was persistent. After multiple offers, she finally agreed, and it turned out to be a game changer. The show, Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters, debuted on NBC and became an instant hit. Starring Barbara alongside her sisters Louise and Earlene, the show was a mix of live music and comedy sketches. Their sisterly chemistry was warm, playful, and funny. Barbara played the serious one, Earlene was the glamorous jokester, and Louise was the grounded musician. It wasn't just for show. Three were highly skilled performers. Barbara herself played several instruments, including steel guitar, banjo, piano, and saxophone, impressing viewers week after week. Louise Mandrell showcased her impressive skills on the fiddle and banjo, while her sister, Arlene, brought energy and rhythm to the stage as the drummer. Their variety show wasn't just a family affair, it became a magnet for legendary entertainers. Stars like Ray Charles, Glenn Campbell, and Bob Hope eagerly appeared on the program. Each episode often ended with a moving gospel medley, a heartfelt tribute to the sisters' Southern roots and strong Christian faith. Despite its popularity drawing an estimated 40 million viewers, the show ended after just 2 seasons. It wasn't due to ratings or audience interest, but because Barbara Mandrell was burning out. She was juggling her demanding music career with the intense workload of a weekly television series, often spending 14 to 16 hours on set. The strain on her health, particularly her voice, became overwhelming. She frequently required cortisone shots just to get through filming. Eventually, doctors warned her of permanent vocal damage if she didn't stop. Faced with this reality, Barbara made the difficult decision to walk away from the show she loved. Behind the lights and applause, Barbara was privately fighting a grueling battle. The pressure, fatigue, and fear of losing her voice were not just career issues, they were personal sacrifices. Her departure marked not only a career change, but also a deeply emotional choice. Years later, in 2007, fans were able to relive those special moments through the DVD release Best of Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters show. It served as a reminder of what made the show so memorable: the charm, the talent, the family bond, and Barbara's incredible dedication when it came at a high personal cost. Barbara Mandrell may not always be the first name people mention when listing iconic female country stars like Dolly Parton, Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, or Reba McEntire, but she stood right alongside them. Twice crowned Entertainer of the Year at the Country Music Awards and a 2-time Grammy winner, Barbara was a true superstar in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Not only could she sing, but she also played multiple instruments from the steel guitar to the saxophone and became a beloved television presence, thanks to her family's variety show. Yet in 1997, at the height of her talents, Barbara made a surprising move. She retired from music after an emotional farewell performance at the Grand Ole Opry. Since then, she has stayed out of the public eye, choosing a more private life focused on family, faith, personal passions like gardening and painting. Her decision to leave fame behind stemmed from both personal choice and life-changing events. In 1984, Barbara was at the peak of her career, but her world changed in an instant. On September 11th of that year, she was in a terrible head-on car accident near her Nashville home. The crash killed the 19-year-old driver of the other vehicle, Mark White, and left Barbara with serious injuries, including a broken leg and concussion. Her children, who were with her, were also injured. Though they survived, The physical and emotional toll was severe. Barbara spent over a year and a half recovering, struggled with ongoing neurological issues and post-traumatic stress. The accident changed her life in many ways. It also made her a strong advocate for seatbelt use, while her children were wearing theirs during the crash. She admitted it hadn't been a consistent habit before, but that all changed afterward. The public response to the tragedy became complicated when Barbara and her husband filed a $10.3 million lawsuit against the deceased driver's family not-for-profit, but to trigger an insurance payout for the medical costs. Despite this legal clarification, some fans reacted negatively, creating a cloud over her otherwise stellar reputation. Nevertheless, Barbara pressed on. She returned to music, wrote a best-selling autobiography titled Get to the Heart, My Story, and even had it adapted into a CBS TV movie. But by the mid-1990s, her priorities had shifted. In 1997, she retired from the industry completely, not because of scandal or health problems, but because she simply wanted to be there for her family. To mark the change, she sold her beloved musical instruments, symbolizing the closing of a major chapter in her life. Though she briefly acted afterward, appearing in Sunset Beach through 1998, she gradually stepped away from public life. In the years that followed, Barbara focused on the things that brought her peace: her home, her loved ones, her garden, and her art. Even though she was no longer performing, her legacy remained strong. In 2009, she was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. That night, she was honored by fellow stars like Reba McEntire and Michael McDonald, and her sister, Louise, performed a tribute in her honor. Barbara used the occasion to honor her late father and manager, Barbara Mandrell, crediting him for guiding her career and thanking the fans for helping make their family name legendary. Her impact didn't stop there. In 2020, Grammy-winning producer and DJ David created a remix of her 1978 hit Sleeping Single in a Double Bed, giving it a modern dance twist. Barbara was thrilled with the update, praising the beat and arrangement for breathing new life into her classic. Then in 2022, something truly special happened. Barbara returned to the Grand Ole Opry not to sing, but to celebrate 50 years since her original induction. Though she didn't perform, her presence alone was powerful. She reflected on her early days, remembering how proud she was to be inducted at just 23. With emotion, she reaffirmed her love for country music and her appreciation for the Opry, calling it her home. That night, Carrie Underwood paid tribute to Barbara, thanking her for paving the way for female artists and calling her an inspiration. Barbara, a gesture full of warmth, stayed to watch Carrie's soundcheck, cheering her on behind the scenes. Later, she took to Instagram to thank fans for their continued love, writing, "Whether you were there in person or watching from home, I felt so much love from each of you. Thank you to the Opry for celebrating me and welcoming me home. Lord knows I love the Opry." Though Barbara Mandrell is no longer in the limelight, her influence continues to echo through country music. Her story is one of enormous talent, heartbreaking trials, quiet reinvention, and enduring grace. In a world that constantly demands more visibility and reinvention, Barbara made a rare and powerful choice: to seek peace. And in doing so, she secured a legacy that continues to shine no spotlight necessary.